Hello world and welcome to lesson 5 of our logic and reasoning course. So far we've been focusing on logic, and today we're going to go more on the reasoning side. If you remember back at the beginning of the course, we said that reasoning is sort of a less formal form of logic. It's kind of just thinking through things clearly. Logic is a lot more structured and has formal principles that you're supposed to follow. So today is going to be more informal, and I think what I decided to do is we're just going to kind of pick a few things to talk through. The kids and I kind of got together and sort of came up with some questions just as a family, and just things that I think would be good to talk to just to sort of illustrate the reasoning process. And so a lot of these questions, maybe could be answered very quickly, but we're going to sort of take some time to go through the process, reason through them, just to, again, show what that whole process looks like. Okay? You guys are goofy today, aren't you? That's okay. So the first question that we're going to ask today is actually very relevant. Why do we homeschool? Before we get into that, I think I'm going to sort of pull it back a step or two. And let's ask the question before we ask why do we homeschool? Why do we have school at all? What's the point of school? Just talk.
To learn.
To learn? Okay.
If nobody knew anything, then we wouldn't learn anything new. We wouldn't go to the moon. We wouldn't do anything.
So the purpose of school is to learn so that we can go to the moon?
No, it's we wouldn't do anything important, and everybody would just be dumb, and there'd just be a lot of bad stuff happening.
Okay.
It'd be hard to get a job, or it would be hard to really do anything. Drive a car.
Okay. So learning, so we have skills for life, right? Okay. So that's kind of the whole point of school in general, and like why we sit here and talk through logic and math and science and whatever else that we learn. So that you guys have skills so that you can do things in life, whether you want to just be kind of a regular person, get a job, have a family, or whether you want to be an astronaut and go to the moon. You have to learn to be able to do all those things, right? So if that's the point of school, then why specifically do we homeschool? So as parents, obviously, we like our kids, generally speaking, right? Yeah. And we want what's best for you guys. And so the question that we have to ask is, do we think that homeschooling can prepare you for life better than a public school or private school or whatever? What, you have input on that?
Because probably yes, because your parents are your parents.
Your parents are your parents?
Yeah, and
why does that matter?
Because they know how much you can handle at a time.
Okay, so your parents know how much you can handle. Your parents have a lot better insight into what your life is like at home and how much work you need, what you're struggling with, what you're not, right? Now, this isn't necessarily something you guys would know about, but this is kind of a big deal with like public schools, because if you can imagine, if you would go to a public school, and oftentimes you're going to have 15, 20, 30, maybe even more kids in one class. And so if you think about it, if you have one teacher trying to teach, let's say 30 kids, do you think they're going to be able to pay attention to each kid as much. No. And so that would be like one big advantage we would have at like homeschooling is I'm just trying to teach the three of you, right? So it's a lot easier for me to pay attention to each single one of you and see what you're struggling with and give you the attention that you need if you need help with something.
There's a lot of things that could go wrong if all the kids go on like buses.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could get in a car crash. Someone could take over the bus.
Okay.
Something
Or a
like
bus
that.
crash.
I guess. I mean, usually that's not a big
That
issue.
could happen anytime you go out driving, though.
Yeah. So, would that be a good reason not to go to school?
Mm-mm.
No, because if that was
There's
really
a possibility, and you don't have to. It's not like you have to drive to do school.
right, but anytime you drive, that would be a. So this is why I say I think I want to talk through some of these things because we can kind of reason out. And it's a good point. You know, this is kind of like what you might call like a point counterpoint, right? So when you're trying to think through something and reason through something, you know, if somebody brings up a point like, well, what if you get into a car crash when you're on the bus? And that could be a bad thing, right? Obviously, that's a bad thing. But the counterpoint is, well, you take that risk anytime you go out, anywhere you drive. And so that wouldn't, because, that's, you kind of make the point of the bus crash or whatever happens on the bus, and you make the counterpoint, well, we take that risk every day already. So that sort of explains that point as like, okay, this is not valid, right? And when I say not valid, I don't mean valid in the same way, like if we're talking formal logic, because again, we're just kind of reasoning through things here, talking through. But I mean that just sort of in a less formal way of, it's not a good reason to not go to a public school. All right, you guys actually have a lot of input on this. I wasn't expecting this, but it's good. So what else did you have?
You can change the curriculums that you like if it's doing good for your kids, you can go through, but if you don't like the curriculum, you can change it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had that a couple times, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we had that with like math.
Yeah.
Where you guys used to hate math. And we switched to the CTC math. Quick shout out to CTC math. All you guys hated math. It was like your worst subject, least favorite.
I still don't like math, but it's better.
Yeah.
It's way better.
Yeah, and it's like right after we switched to CTC math, they were all fighting to like who gets to do their math first for the day. So it was such a huge change. But yeah, it's a very good point that we are able to kind of easily make that change at least relatively easy, make that change when we find a curriculum is just not working for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other input?
Everything isn't dumbed down. You can switch to higher grades if you're ready.
Yeah, that's a really good, and really that's you can do that in public schools to some extent too. It's a lot harder, but it can happen. But yeah, it's certainly a lot easier, and again, it goes back to the fact that, me and mommy are, for every class as we're teaching, you have a teacher for 3 students. And so we're able to keep up with a lot better, like where you're at. Are you ready to move on to the next thing? And if you are doing great, then yeah, we can just move you on to the next grade. And it's no problem most of the time.
It's also, homeschooling is a lot more flexible than stuff. You can move ahead and take a break, or
more flexible. Yep. You guys got a lot of good points. You're really selling this idea. You guys like being homeschooled, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. We got three homeschooling fans. 4 if you count me. All right. Well, I guess we've done a lot of arguments like for homeschooling. What would be some like arguments against it? What would you see as, so again, as kind of like the point counterpoint? What would be some downsides of homeschooling, do you think?
If your mom or dad or both parents are working, then they can't help you, and if you're too young, you can't stay at home.
Yeah, so it requires the parents' input, right? It's a lot harder, a lot more work for the parents. And certainly, like you said, if you have both parents working, can't really homeschool, or at least it would be very hard. I guess you'd have to do all your classes at night or something. I've never heard of anybody where both parents homeschool and they try, or both parents work and they still try to homeschool at least. Maybe somebody's tried to make that happen, but it's really not realistic, right? Yeah, good points. So it's a lot more work for the parents. Anything else? Sometimes parents have hard times teaching certain subjects, right? I mean, that's the reason that we're doing this channel, is to try to help people that, especially on like the science side of things. And we haven't even done any science yet. We're all doing logic and reasoning right now. But it's kind of like a sciencey thing. It's the science of thought, right? I think that was the definition that we gave for logic, where it was logic is the science of thought. Sure. So it's kind of science. Anyway, so that could be a potential downside. Sometimes parents might struggle to teach certain subjects. And hopefully this channel will, in the long run, help people like that. Anything else? You guys are really talkative today. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting, this kind of went a totally different direction this went a very different direction from what I was expecting, but that's okay. That's good.
We like the subject.
So when I think maybe to sort of summarize everything that we've talked through so far on this subject, and sort of illustrate kind of what we just did there. And this is part of the reasoning process. If you have a complicated issue like this, a complicated question, why do we homeschool? Or, maybe for somebody that's out there that's trying to think, should we homeschool? Right? This is like how you would reason through a question like that, is you can kind of break the argument or the discussion down into parts, right? And think about, okay, what's the pluses? What are the positives? What are the bad things? What are the minuses? Right? And then you can sort of weigh each thing, and sometimes it's good to like sit down and make a list, and you can write all those things down so you can just look at them easily and say, okay, and do the pluses outweigh the minuses? Right? Man, you guys had a lot of input on that. Cool. Next question. This is another interesting one. So the question was, why do we do chores? What do you think? Why do you guys do chores?
To make sure our house stays clean.
Okay. Keeps the house clean.
So, like, bugs don't get everywhere.
Okay, I would file that under keep the house clean, but yeah, no bugs.
You can help out your parents if they need to do other work and they have a lot to do.
Helps out your parents. I like that one. That's good. Okay, so another one I would throw out is sort of like preparing for the future, right? Because as you guys get older, eventually you're going to move out and have your own house and have your own job and things like that, right? And so it's good, like, teaching you to have tasks that you have a task list, and being able to get your jobs done and all of that, and just keeping things clean, that's all good preparation for, doing a job and having your own house. Do you guys want to live in dirty houses when you get older? Yeah, probably not a good idea. Okay. Any other reasons why we do chores? Because our kitty needs his litter box changed, right? So anyway, there's obviously lots of reasons to do chores, and a big part of just helping out and also preparing you for the future. Are there any counterpoints? Like, what would be the negatives?
It takes up your time.
Takes up your time, okay. Is that like a big counterpoint, though?
Not really.
I feel like when you're a kid, you have like so much time on your hands. And then you get to be an adult and you're just like, there's not enough hours in the day.
I do that.
Yeah, you do that sometimes, that's true. So next one of the questions you had was, why do we work? So what do you think? Why do we work?
To get money.
To get money? That's a good one. What?
So that we can, like, get money, of course, but, like, also, like, so we can buy things like food.
Maybe let me ask this question. Why do we need money to buy food? Like, why don't we just grow our own food? Somebody just talk.
Because it takes time and different, not everybody has the time to grow a garden.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has, like, the soil. And it
Tools.
takes money to buy tools.
Mm-hmm.
It takes money to buy seeds.
Mm-hmm.
It takes money to buy, like, plant growing stuff.
Or, if you can't just, if you're vegetarian, I guess, but meat.
Yeah. Well, you could raise cows or chickens or something too.
Yeah, but
for
it
meat.
also takes money. Unless you catch them in the wild, which is probably very unlikely.
Yeah, okay.
And when you're growing gardens, it also takes time to grow it.
Uh-huh. So I think all that I would sort of summarize as like, it's a lot of work, and the amount of time and money that you spend doing a garden or farming or whatever, you might end up, depending on how you do it, you might end up taking more money if you're growing your own food, or taking more time than you would if you would just work a job and get money and buy food with money, right?
There's also other things you need to get other than food, like clothes and sort of unnecessary things like tables, couches, pillows.
Or, like, for an example, glasses. Hey.
That's me.
Yeah. Well, so the point would be that even if you were growing your own food, you still have to have money for other things, right? If you need to go to the doctor or whatever. And so, that's another complication, that if you were to just try to live by growing your own food, that you would sort of have to be not just a farmer, but also have a market, right? You'd have to sell your stuff too, and that also takes time and effort.
Like the huge Walmart building that.
Well, you don't have to have a Walmart, no.
Yeah.
But you would have to have some way to get money to help, if you needed to go to the doctor or something.
Like a lemonade stand.
Sure.
That would probably give money.
That would not give you enough money to go to the doctor. So anyway, there's pluses. Again, it's something, there's pluses and minuses. And if you were to try to make that decision of whether you want to grow your own food or not, you'd have to sit down and look at those pluses and minuses, and does it make sense? And does the positives outweigh the negatives, right? Does the amount of time and effort that you'd have to put into it, is that worth it, as opposed to an option where you kind of just go get a job and work and make money that way and buy food, right? So again, practicing our reasoning skills here, right? Considering different options and pluses and minuses of each. It's a good thing to learn to do. Okay? Another question you guys came up with, interesting one here. Why did God make trees?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? You got some?
To give oxygen, to give shade, to give fruit, to give green.
To give green. Okay.
Or
Yeah, a
brown.
lot of good points there. So oxygen, so trees are part of, I guess you could say sort of like that worldwide ecosystem, right?
Also to give
That-
wood.
To give wood. Right, so maybe to the point of oxygen, like God could have made plants that weren't trees that, you know, like there's lots of other plants that consume carbon dioxide and create oxygen.
Yeah, that's just what I was gonna say. Like trees don't like breathe, but they like suck in carbon dioxide and give you oxygen. But
Yeah.
so basically, you're feeding the trees, and the trees are feeding you.
Yeah, so it's a nice cycle that keeps the whole planet working good, right? But the point that I was making was God could have made, I mean, there's lots of other plants that do that. We didn't have to have trees specifically. So why trees? And I think, Jules, the idea that you had, I think that's a good one. Everything here was made for people, right? So that we could live. And so you could also say maybe one of the reasons that God made trees specifically is because what do we use trees for? For wood, right?
Fruit.
Not just for, well, yeah, if it's a fruit tree, sure, also fruit.
Oxygen.
But yeah, so we had, you know, we mentioned oxygen, but even just, you know, having building materials. Because, you know, you got to think, especially for a good part of human civilization, you know, back when, you know, the early days of people, I mean, pretty much everything was built from wood, right? And there was, you know, clay and things like that. But, you know, wood has, throughout history, been a very important building material for people. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Well, I just want to say thank you to the squirrels.
Squirrels?
Because
I mean, that's not a bad point, too, that squirrels and animals, they need homes, they need things to live in.
also, what I meant by that was like they bury acorns and stuff in the ground, and sometimes they forget where they are, and so they grow into trees.
Ginormous.
That's true.
Right, ginormous trees.
Ginormous.
So again, sort of part of this idea of like an ecosystem. And I think we're going to get into botany is going to be our science for the fall. So you guys are jumping ahead and getting into stuff that we'll get in with that. But that's good. All right, so the last question you guys had was, is the government good? And I think we can maybe try to answer this in a way that doesn't get us in trouble, doesn't land us on a government watch list maybe. So let's try to list all the good things and all the bad things like we've been doing, because, you know, it's a good way to reason through something like this. And that's all the time that we have for today. So thanks for sticking with us. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Drop us a like if this is at all helpful, and we will see you in the next one.
Subscribe.
Yep, subscribe.
And like.